What design flaws or bugs are there in the human body? First of all, I think the biggest bug is that, as humans, the things that feel good are often bad for our health, while the things that tire us out are actually good for us. That just doesn't make sense. For example, lying down and playing on your phone feels great, but it's bad for your body, while running is exhausting, yet it's good for your health. Don't you all agree? Speaking of bugs, the most famous is the recurrent laryngeal nerve, which even makes surgeons shudder. The brain is close to the larynx, so logically, you could just take a direct route, like going straight down Chenhua Avenue from Erxianchao. Simple and efficient. The recurrent laryngeal nerve takes a long route, looping by the aorta before returning. It's like traveling from Shenzhen to Guangzhou, but insisting on a detour through Tongliaotis is an inherited bug. When we were still fish, the brain was close to the heart, so the nerve passed under the aortic arch. But who could have predicted that as we moved onto land, we'd grow nexum even longer, so the recurrent laryngeal nerve had to stretch with it. There are many similar little bugs. For example, a lot of times we find certain parts of our body are itchy, but when we try to scratch them, it feels like the itch is in another dimension. No matter how you scratch, you just can't reach it. This is actually a bug in the vagus nerve, an illusion caused by being overly excited. Another example is that although walking upright has brought humans many benefits, it also means that our slender spine has to bear the entire weight of the upper body. The intervertebral discs, seeing such immense pressure, feel like they have to stand out in some way. Moreover, walking upright also causes excessive pressure on human knee joints. Even a super strong British bodybuilder would have trouble with his neck and ribs if he sang and danced rap for a long time. In addition, prolonged upright walking can cause local blood vessels to become varicose and protrude, resulting in hemorrhoids. Those of you who suffer from hemorrhoids probably know this all too well. But for animals that walk on all fours, the local pressure isn't as great, so they don't get hemorrhoids. So for the sake of your little swallow's health, try not to put too much pressure on it. Even if you're an expert at straining on the toilet, don't sit there playing with your phone for too long. We all know there's a part of our body that can get bigger or smaller when stimulated. That's right, it's the pupil. The pupil controls the amount of light entering the eye by changing its size, and ultimately this light reaches the retina. But the human retina is actually one of our bugs. It seems like the creator installed it backwards. The ganglion cells are at the very front, while the photoreceptor cells that receive the light signals are all the way at the back. As a result, in order for the optic nerve to connect to the ganglion cells, it has to punch a hole in the retina and run its wiring through it. The spot where this hole is made has no photoreceptor cells, which creates a blind spot in our vision. You can try this yourself. Close your left eye, then use your right eye to focus on the red cross on the left and move your gaze. As the small black ball on the right moves to a certain position, it will disappear from your peripheral vision. This is the blind spot in human vision. So next time you get rejected by your crush, you can comfort yourself by thinking, it's not that she doesn't see me, it's just that I happen to be standing in her visual blind spot. In short, the design of the human retina can really be described as quite anti-human. Fortunately, the visual blind spot can be compensated for by having two eyes. In addition, the powerful computing ability of our brain can also fill in the missing parts of the image. It's like making up for insufficient hardware with computational power. This is where having a powerful CPU really shows its benefits. So, all things considered, our retina may look like it was coded incorrectly, but it still manages to run in a strange way. There's a certain beauty in a system that operates relying on its own bugs. So, with so many bugs in the human body, if you say humans were designed by some old man with a white beard, then there must have been something wrong with his blueprints. Yet, our bodies still manage to function amidst all these bugs. As the saying goes, one bug is a bug, but a bunch of bugs can actually work. As for why these bugs exist, in reality, biological evolution isn't about starting from scratch and building anew, but rather about making gradual modifications on top of what already exists. From a single-celled organism, we've been modded over billions of years, and our genes have become the most tangled pile of code in history, so it would actually be strange if there weren't any bugs. You've probably seen that some people have a small hole next to their ear, technically known as a preauricular sinus. This is a classic example of a bug caused by the historical accumulation of code. Back when we were still fish, we happily breathed through gills in the water. Later, when we moved onto land, we no longer needed the gill function, but we couldn't just delete that section of genes. That's part of the underlying code. Who knows if the whole system would crash if we removed it? So what could we do? The only option was to write code to suppress gill formation. That's why, in early human embryonic development, we have structures like gill arches and slits, just like fish. As the suppressing code takes effect, the gill slits close, and the arches develop into structures such as the ears and jaws. But for some people, the suppressing code doesn't work completely, so remnants of the gill slits remain, forming small holes next to the ears. However, even though there are a lot of these little bugs, they basically don't interfere with the two main missions that our genes have assigned us: eating and reproducing. Natural evolution may never eliminate these bugs. The constant accumulation of code throughout history will only lead to more and more small bugs. So whether it's mechanical ascension or genetic ascension, humanity will definitely have to pursue it in the future. There is no other way. To borrow a line from Stellaris, natural evolution has always been best described by a single blunt word: failure. But now, we will define success ourselves.